All right, we're back here with another installment of the Nailing History podcast. I'm here with the host of the show, the star, the belle of the ball, Jon. Jon, how you doing?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. I know
I hope you're doing
last week.
I hope you're doing better than your internet connection.
But I'm stoked. Yeah, well, it's trying its best. I'm in a basement using this Wi-Fi extender. We're trying our best. We're gonna get there. I'm gonna call him this week. I promised Matt, the co-host, that I'm gonna give Comcast a call, Xfinity, as some of you may know them. See if we can get tech out here. See what's going on, because we're struggling. My fiance likes to watch a lot of Bravo reality television, and so she streams that. And for whatever reason, I can't seem to host a podcast or watch TV at the same time. So we got to get Comcast out here. Matt's put a case about it, and I think he's finally getting through. So that's what we're going to do. And stay tuned. I'll give you an update as we proceed. How have you been, Matt?
Maybe we'll put a poll up. Maybe we'll put a poll up on the on Twitter, on our Twitter account at Nailing History on X, and ask if in in the year of 2024, if someone should be able to use the internet on a computer and stream television shows at the same time, and see what the general public seems to think.
Yeah, I think that could be a good idea. Compare it to a different decade. Maybe I'm living in 2005. It looks like I can say that. So I'll try to fast forward to the future, get back to the future, as they say, and work it out. But anyway, I was definitely in the past this weekend. I'll tell you what, that was fun. Oh man, you wouldn't believe where I was. Want to take a guess?
Let me think. Were you at Jamie Raskin's house down in Maryland?
I wish. Park, Montgomery County. What represent? No, I was not. Mr. Raskin has not divulged an invite to me yet. He's a big history fan, apparently. According to
shared with Jon a video that a fan sent me about kind of these two congressional powerhouses were going at it about the history of I don't know,
the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't really
know what they were arguing about and what a republic means.
It was seriously like if me and Jon were in Congress, that and we were able to argue on a public stage. That's what it would be.
It was about as deep as you would expect from us too, because these guys. One guy was like, "Well, Ben Franklin said a republic is we can keep it if we have a republic. Give us a republic if we could keep it.
Yeah, maybe we can keep it. It's just funny that Republican, and he was a Republican. I don't know what he was getting at there.
And then Jamie Raskin said that he wrote a paper in the 6th grade about the Pledge of Allegiance and what a republic means, and gave history about who wrote the Pledge of Allegiance. He did leave out that he was a socialist. Probably, I think he just decided to keep on wraps, and he basically just tried to school him with the history of the Pledge of Allegiance. And I guess it worked. I don't really know what the outcome was, what they were going for. So
they probably hugged it out afterwards.
But not at Jamie Raskin's house. Matter of fact, I think you might have shared a previous show. I was at the house of an awesome founding father. I don't think he made our face suits, though. I think he was an honorable mention, if I recall correctly. A gentleman by the name of Mr. George Mason. Gunstall, baby. And it was really great. We had a fun time. I took my fiance, her sister, and her brother-in-law. I mean, they really enjoyed themselves. We had a lot of fun. We had a great time. Used the Groupon.
How was the tour guide?
I would love for you to be there. I just didn't see it schedule. Our schedules.
It was interesting because you did say I was going to go, and then you said that you were going. So I just said, okay, I guess I was uninvited. That's okay.
I had to use the Groupon by like June 10th, and I just didn't know how you would get from where you are to down there. A lot of traffic.
Yeah,
95 can be a nightmare. I was looking out for you.
That would be that would be what somebody who can't stream a TV show and use the internet on a computer would think, with his lack of technological knowledge of technological advances over the last couple of years. He would think, how would he possibly get from Pennsylvania to Virginia?
I don't know. Yeah, horse and buggy. I don't know what you do. I don't want you to get stuck. So I bit the bullet. We were about one of only 3 people there. We pulled up, and there was 2 other cars in the parking lot, and was not getting big shout outs, big praise up front from my fiance. And yeah, but slowly but surely they came on board, and it was great. I had a lot of fun. Emily did a really great job, our host, much better than I don't even remember his name.
He didn't give us his name. That freaking idiot.
Did not give us a name. Did give Matt a dead fish handshake. But no, Emily did a fantastic job. Graduate of William and Mary. She interned at Mount Vernon.
Did you tell her about our podcast?
Hall. Didn't have a chance.
Oh my God, you are the worst. Why would you not, dude?
There was a guy in our group who would very much be interested in it. He had 2 different colored eyes and a hat with a lot of flair on it. Like every national park or national historic registered building he's been to, he got a little pin stuck on his hat. He was asking a million questions. I was asking a million questions.
And you didn't happen to ask a question about the question of what podcast do you listen to didn't seem to come up, or no, hey, I do a podcast about history.
We had an hour to get the house itself. So the plantation was on 5,000 acres originally. The house is pretty small. She kept calling it a mansion, but by the standards of even Mount Vernon and Jackson's the Hermitage down in Tennessee, it was pretty small, the house itself. But we only had an hour to get through it, and each room we went to, I was just fielding a ton of questions. I was giving her a lot of questions. She seemed to really enjoy it. We kept losing this guy who was asking, the other guy who was asking a bunch of questions. He kept getting lost and staying behind. We can only move room to room, and we wouldn't let us kind of meander on our own. So yeah, it was.
So you would go to another room, and we're like, oh wait, where's the guy with the hat? And you had to go get him and bring him.
And she had to tell him to stop touching something. She had to tell him a couple of times to stop leaning up against the walls. And
what was his name?
So David, I believe he was Canadian and his wife was British.
Oh my God.
That's how those things always go.
You should have gotten him as a guest on the show.
I know.
Dude, you are the worst co-host of all time. How are we supposed to get the word out if you're just keeping your mouth shut about it?
He's a digger, that guy. That guy, he's a real sleuth. He'll find us, trust me. He had his notebook out. He's writing an article.
He even had
maybe a blog post.
Are you serious?
We're going to cross paths one day. I tell you right now, we're going to cross paths. I promise you. I'm trying to think of any interesting facts. So George Mason, for anyone who might remember, he was an ardent anti-federalist, one of the only 3 delegates from Virginia refused to sign the Constitution and said he'd rather cut off his right hand than sign it. He was neighbors basically with George Washington. So Mount Vernon's right up the road, right up the river, basically. And after the fallout from the Constitution, Mason never talked to George Washington ever again. And he was they called him the father of the Bill of Rights. He wrote the Virginia Declaration of Rights, took a lot of inspiration from the English Bill of Rights and a lot of other things, Magna Carta, all those things he was referencing, and the traditional rights of Englishmen in a lot of his writings and influences. And it's been on my bucket list for a while, and it was only 15 minutes away from my future sister-in-law's house Thank you again, guys, for going. They're new listeners to this show, so I need to give them a shout out. Thank you guys for subscribing.
Do they like it?
They do. They do. They just think we need a little more structure, just tight and to the point, and boom, 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 in and out.
All right. Well, what was the most important? What was the most interesting fact that you learned on your big trip that you excluded me from and didn't mention the podcast on?
Most interesting fact? Ooh, let me think. She made a good point of describing how, compared to other plantation owners, he kind of had a little more foresight in not being overly reliant on tobacco as kind of like the 1760s and early 1770s rolled on. He kind of realized that there was kind of an overproduction of tobacco going on. And he said, you know what? It's probably going to be a crash in prices. I think it was too much. So he started planting a lot more wheat and sending that off to the Caribbean and to the Britain. And so he tried to kind of diversify a little more. I found that quite interesting and very much in line with what he saw, what the Constitution would eventually give us, which would be a very centralized government. So he was a guy had a lot of foresight to him. And for a man who barely ever left his plantation, Virginia, let alone his plantation, or vice versa, he really knew what was going on in the world, had a really good take on things. So I thought it was really great. Didn't get a chance to read so much of the museum pieces. We kind of just ran through that pretty quickly. But yeah, no, it was just a really great time. Really great Sunday morning. Highly recommend if anyone's ever down in the Northern Virginia, specifically the Mason Neck region, State Park there as well, if you want to get a little day hiking. So yeah, it was a lot of great. So what did you do this weekend? Did you end up anywhere?
I saw a coyote today. I saw a coyote today.
Cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
In Pennsylvania, I didn't know there were.
They're making their way here. I would say probably they're apparently like around the King of Prussia area, and they're being more populated. And like I want to say like 5 years ago, maybe less. Well, yeah, maybe about 5 years ago now, I was doing this field work for what I do for work, and we were in this patch of woods. It was like the last patch of woods in King of Prussia, which, if the listeners don't know, King of Prussia, it's the second largest mall in America is there, and it's very built up,
named after?
very very industrialized. I don't know.
Who's it named after? Okay.
Probably a Prussian king. It would be my guess. So
it was.
Yeah, shocking. So I was in the last patch. It was a pretty industrialized, pretty developed area. And I was like in the last patch of woods doing some field work. And it was just me and this other guy. And I happened to be looking in this one direction, and I saw this big, dark, gray dog walking down the path that we made in the woods. And I was like, what the heck? And then it just like continued to walk through the woods, and I was like kind of taken back. I'm like, turned to the guy I was working with. I was like, did you see that? He's like, see what? And I think that was a wolf. I think a wolf just walked by. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I didn't see any footprints either, but I swear I saw it.
The wolf of
but
Coyote.
I think it was either a big dog or a coyote.
Hold on to your shopping bags. They're coming to get you.
Well, now it's a housing development where this wolf lived. So I don't know where. Maybe it's the same one that I saw today. Maybe got pushed out through the old Valley Forge Park area and into where I live.
Did you take it?
That was
as
pretty
an omen?
exciting. I saw
a coyote in Pennsylvania. So yeah, anything else new, exciting going on?
No, not really.
Do
you have any This Week in History things for the week of May 19th to the 25th?
I sure do.
Guess we'll get started with that.
We'll get started with that.
I'm sure the fans can't wait. They missed a week. Sorry. Anybody who had a week of no historical facts at work, sorry. I'm sure all your coworkers are like, man, weird. been getting so many odd facts from this guy, and now this week, for some reason, I didn't get anything. So I apologize for that. I hope you didn't lose your rep at work or school or wherever you're from.
Going for a big bonus, and you're gonna have something to tell your boss, give you a little raise with a factoid. Sorry. Hopefully we can make it up here for you.
All right, you can go first.
Okay. I got here on May 22nd, 1939, Italy and Germany agreed to a military and political alliance known as the Pact of Steel.
That's a dope name.
Basically was the kind of the beginning of the Axis powers, because that did the tripartite pact wasn't for another year or so, which included all three powers: Nazi Germany, fascist Italy, and Imperial Japan. But this Pact of Steel, like I said, May 22nd, 1939, it obliged Germany and Italy to aid one another militarily, economically, or otherwise in the event of war, and to collaborate in wartime production. Fun fact, the original name of it was going to be the Pact of Blood. But unfortunately,
that is a fun fact.
They didn't think it was going to be received very well in Italy, so they changed it to Pact of Steel. And so the agreement was made on the basis that neither side would go to war within 3 years of the agreement signing, allowing both sides to, get enough armament, raise enough forces, basically just prepare for war. Unfortunately, Germany went and jumped the gun, kind of left Italy in the dust a little bit. So, as we all know, Germany attacked Poland on September 1st, 1939. Fortunately, as anyone knows anything about kind of military or World War II history, Italy was always taking a back seat to Germany and Japan. They were like the Three Stooges. They were the curly of the bunch. Italy was not prepared at all. I don't even know if Hitler told Mussolini, hey, we're doing this. Seems like he was caught off guard. And so Italy didn't even know. They didn't even enter World War II until June of 1940. So like another 9 months, Italy was on the sideline preparing for war, basically. And when they did, they invaded southern France. But another fun fact I learned about this. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the brutal.
Should we just call this podcast John's Fun Facts?
Should be.
These are so fun.
This one's a really good one. This one's fun. This one's really fun. So from our fans a couple weeks ago, I talked about, we touched on the brutal execution of Mussolini. And, we thought, Matt thought, oh, maybe like Hitler killed himself the way he did and insisted that his body be burned, as he didn't want to be exposed. So my research has led me to uncover that the reason they wanted to call it a Pact of Blood was they wanted to make that agreement that if either one of them was captured or killed by the enemy, that the other one would see to it that their wee-wee was not exposed and they would in fact have themselves burned. I
actually did some research.
That was brother pact.
I did do some research, and Hitler, his junk was all messed up. Did you ever? Apparently, like one of his testicles never.
Seen it.
What?
I didn't know there was pictures of it.
Really? There are?
No, I've never seen it.
Well, apparently, only one of his testicles dropped, and he had some kind of disease where it's pretty gruesome. But like he peed downwards. I'll just say that much. So I'm going to stick to it that's why he killed himself. Because, Hitler doesn't seem to be that...
Yeah, that'll get you pretty angry at the world.
I don't think...
that'll get you pretty angry at the world.
I don't think... Hitler doesn't seem like a man of his word. Like, so part of the pact was they were going to, like, do a little Romeo and Juliet suicide pact, but at the same time, he went to war before he didn't even follow the pact. So that your fun fact is more of a fun fiction, I think.
It was. You got me. That was my joke of the week.
Cool. That's your This Week in History. All right. I have a couple. There's a couple that are good and some that'll really light a fire under you. So on what date was yours?
Go for it.
No, what date was yours?
May 22nd, 1939.
Okay. Well, I got the same date, May 22nd. So that's kind of a bummer. But May 22nd, 1958.
What happened?
May 22nd, 1958. The headline or the one word description of this date that I found was Jerry Lee Lewis drops quote unquote bomb in England. So he had like in 1958, Jerry Lee Lewis was one of the biggest rock stars in America. I guess this is probably it's obviously the same time as Elvis. Maybe like early Elvis. So Jerry Lee Lewis might have been even bigger than Elvis at this time. I don't know. They were like on the same level. And in May of that year, he was scheduled to do a UK tour. It was the first like real big rock star tour in the UK. He had the demand was so high that he had sold out 27 appearances, which I think at that point was like crazy, unheard of. But the real problem, the one issue, is that he showed up with his wife in tow. And when he showed up at the airport, his wife was there, and I guess it raised a couple eyebrows, and this reporter for the Daily Mail like just kind of said, "Hey, that's an interesting young woman you have there. Who is that?" And the woman says, "Oh, I'm Myra, Jerry's wife." And the reporter, I guess, was shocked by the answer and said, "How old is Myra?" And Jerry Lee Lewis said 15. But in actuality, she was only 13. And like, that was a huge problem. And that was so it was a lie. So she was actually 13 years old. He married her. She was his first cousin once removed. And that pretty much ruined his whole career after that, which is kind of a bummer.
Right. Cousins.
They were kissing cousins, as they say. I mean, he should have written a song about that. He should have just embraced it.
Goodness gracious, she was only 13.
I mean,
yeah, it could have worked.
How close? What is a first cousin once removed? What's that lineage? Is that like your cousin's? Is it like your parents' cousin's kid? Because that's not that close relation wise.
Second cousin?
Oh, okay. It's his it was his cousin's kid. Yikes. That's weird. That's really weird. That's way weird.
It was his first cousin's kid.
Yeah. I wonder what his cousin thought. I mean, he was from... That's weird.
He was from the South, wasn't he?
I stopped saying that. Yeah, I mean, maybe it was... I don't know, is that even legal anymore? Or was it then?
I don't even know if back in like the 50s that would have been legal. Maybe she said she was 15. If anyone asked, say you're 15 because it was already sketchy enough.
This says that 6 states prohibit first cousin once removed marriages. Huh.
To this day.
I guess I'm not going to get into it, but it's pretty weird. That's pretty weird. And he, so like after he made that announcement, like his first 3 shows, no one showed up. And then the rest of them got canceled. The hotel he stayed at asked him not to stay there anymore. So he left. And then he just got blacklisted and his career never recovered, which I didn't know. I mean, I don't really know anything about him. I knew he was kind of a maniac. And I guess there's a movie about him, but I never watched it. And I thought that was...
Looks like he was married like 6 times too.
Well, so that was so this was his damage control for this. When they freaked out about it, his defense was that his his marriage to this 15-year-old, his first cousin once removed, was null and void because it took place like 6 months before the divorce of his first marriage from his first wife. So he was technically still married when he married the 13-year-old, and that was his defense for marrying his cousin.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was a bit of a whoops. I mean, I guess, hindsight might not be 20/20 for Jerry Lee Lewis. I don't know, but imagine having to be his PR person. Huh?
I guess he got arrested. Yeah, really. I got a picture of him that must be years after that. Mugshot, Memphis, Tennessee. I'm trying to read here. I sent a picture to you. Graceland arrest. And on September 20th, 1976, Lewis fired a .357 Magnum at a Coke bottle in his bedroom. The bullet ricocheted and accidentally hit bassist Butch Owen in the chest. Owen survived.
That guy was a madman.
He was arrested like 2 months later outside Elvis Presley's Graceland home for allegedly intending to shoot him.
Wow. Guy's a freaking pistol, isn't he?
And there's a whole backstory about that.
I could see him being.
I'm just looking at the headlines of this thing.
I mean, wasn't Priscilla Presley like super young when they started dating too?
They were, and I know Elvis was weird about. He had a whole thing with he couldn't sleep with women that had gotten pregnant prior. So it was like I think they had Lisa Marie Presley, and then like he like was not sexually attracted to his wife anymore. He had like a weird thing too. I remember.
Elvis is cool though.
Yeah,
man.
I guess just this.
I mean, that's not cool, but he's cool.
Weird.
Yeah.
Well, last but not least, Old Jerry owed the IRS, sold the taxman little tax debt, $274,000. He had his property seized.
They would call that the trifecta: marrying your cousin, attempted murder, or plotting to murder, and the tax evasion. That's the holy trinity of crime, right there.
I think Al Capone only got 2 of those. He succeeded at the second one, but he'd kill a few people. But Jerry holding his own, holding his own.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, like I said, I knew he was a wild man, but man, he's a firecracker. That one.
He only died 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that actually kind of makes sense. I also had something. This is one thing that might light a fire under you that I thought maybe you'd be interested to talk about.
Go ahead.
May 25th, 1861, President Abraham Lincoln suspends the writ of habeas corpus.
You know who wouldn't like that?
George Mason. And Dave.
The running joke was when we were at the plantation, when we were at George Mason's, one of the guests kept saying that Abraham Lincoln would be around, and I said he would never be invited to this house for many reasons. One of them being his suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. So
that is a funny joke.
Show me the body.
That is a funny joke. It must have been fun times this morning.
Thanks.
So, no, okay. I don't want to step on you.
No, and I actually butchered that story. It's not how that story actually went down. I just trash talked Abraham Lincoln for a minute when I was at George Mason's house. It's
probably the only one.
Sorry, fans.
Got to come clean. Probably the
just like Honest Abe. We all can't be as honest as Honest Abe. You know what I mean?
Well, so I guess so. So the habeas corpus, which I had to look it up because I've heard the phrase and I don't really fully understand what it means. But basically, you're able to, like, someone who's detained is able to go before a court or a judge to determine if their imprisonment is lawful. So it basically safeguards the public of being, unlawfully detained. And it started off by
show me the body, which means like, yeah, you have to bring evidence before the accused. You have to be like tried for something, not tried, but accused of something, and there has to be evidence to link that to that fact.
Is it like the same?
A ton of people.
Is it the same
prisoners?
Is it the same as saying innocent before proven guilty, or is that a different? Is that a different thing?
Well, when you suspend the writ of habeas corpus, it's basically a way of just shutting up your political opponents. I don't know how many thousands he put in jail. Not even Southerners. So the South left, they seceded. And then I'm talking like Northerners, Northern Democrats.
So this is what happened.
Agree with this policy.
So this is what happened. Actually, John Merriman, a state legislator from Maryland, was arrested attempting to hinder the Union from moving from Baltimore to Washington. I'm not sure what he did. I didn't get into that, and they arrested him and held him at Fort McHenry. And John Merriman's attorney immediately sought the writ of habeas corpus, and Abraham Lincoln decided to suspend that right. And the Supreme Court ruled that he did not have the authority to do so, but Lincoln ignored it and said that he needed to do that in order to put down the rebellion in the South. And then 5 years later, the Supreme Court backed that ruling again in an unrelated case, said that Congress could suspend habeas corpus, and that civilians were not subject to military courts, even in times of war. And wasn't the last time that happened. Another president, I guess this would have been under President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, kind of did the same thing with the internment camps during World War II. Those are two examples of, unlawful imprisonment.
Habeas corpus has been suspended under Obama. President Obama signed indefinite to 10 bill into law. Basically, since 2011, it's effectively been pulled.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that alone would have caused most of the if not all the founding fathers to revolt. I mean, that would have caused another American Revolution.
It does kind of...
They wouldn't have stood for that.
It does kind of bring a bit of a dictatorship mentality, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why it was in the Constitution in the first place. Now, it is in the Constitution that Congress can suspend it. So obviously the founders were like, well, it can be a thing, but it has to be done the right way, not unilaterally by an executive, by an elected king, as Lincoln was acting like. So it's legal. I mean, it was put in the Constitution, and Congress had the power to, but it had to go through the proper channels. But yeah, no, I mean...
But yeah, honest, he basically threw up the middle finger to the Supreme Court. So I thought that was going to light a fire under you, which it seems like it did. I mean, I'm not going to say that, he might not, he maybe potentially meant well by it, similar to Thomas Jefferson not following the Constitution during the Louisiana Purchase.
I don't think people who just decide to willingly kill or to have the blood of 750,000 to 1 million boys the blood of 1 million boys on your hands to be cool, but okay, both North and South. But he wants his tariff and he wants his tax dollars. So,
well, and you could argue the South wanted their slavery. Yeah. So, a little bit of both sides of the street.
Well, then it would have been put in the Constitution that then the states would have agreed when the Constitution was ratified that slavery, that would have been a Constitution.
Well, I think that's pretty. I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty
compact. You're going to give up slavery.
I think it's pretty well known that they had to leave it out in order to get a Constitution agreed to, or they never would have. That's why the word slave is not anywhere in the Constitution. They avoided it. Funny, maybe you could ask that question when you're at George Mason's house today with your buddy Dave. Did he ask that question maybe?
I asked questions about his slaves. I asked him if he not emancipated them, manumission, if he freed them after his death. He did not, but there are Southern slaveholders who did.
I think Washington was one who did that.
No, I think his wife did. or he was going to.
I think his wife owned. I think Martha owned a bunch, and so did he. Like they kind of owned them separately or whatever. I don't know. We won't get into it because we don't really know. The other thing I had, I'll just really quickly. I'm surprised you didn't know this one. Surprised you didn't pick this one, Mr. Blood Donor. But May 21st, 1881, the American Red Cross is founded by Clara Barton in Washington, D.C., which my family...
do you know why?
My family is not the biggest supporters of the American Red Cross because when my grandfather was in World War II, he was over in Italy, and the American, or I guess maybe it was the American Red Cross, or maybe it was just the International Red Cross. Either way, the Red Cross was there, and they were selling donuts to the soldiers for 5 cents a piece. And that made my grandfather so mad he never gave them a dime his whole life. Which I don't know if I blame him. That's whack.
Did he ever donate blood again?
I don't know if he ever did or ever will. I don't know. Or I mean, he can't now. But he and I know somebody in college, somebody in college that I know.
Maybe he was an organ donor on his card.
Oh God, that would be a disaster. Someone in college that I know had to her punishment for playing music too loud in her apartment was to volunteer at the Red Cross, and she hated it. So I don't know.
You couldn't just give blood. They couldn't just be like, you got to make a blood.
Yeah, I mean maybe.
So Girl Scout cookies.
That sounds like something the Red Cross would do. The one note that I had here is that the COO's salary of the American Red Cross is over $700,000 a year. So that's the kind of company, that's the kind of organization you're donating your blood to, John. Just so you know. I don't want to talk that much trash on the American Red Cross. I'm sure they do a lot of good stuff.
I'm almost grateful for you that. Do you think your grandfather was ever cognizant of how much money the CEO of the Red Cross ever made?
He would be so mad. Yeah, he would be mad. He would be mad for sure. We gotta one day, dude. One day, I'm gonna come down and we're gonna both go to the Red Cross to donate blood. We're gonna get our platelets checked, see who has more of them, and I'm gonna just go in there and finally give them a piece of my mind when I'm there about the donut situation. See what they have to say.
Put him to task. Now, well, I got to tell you, if your grandfather even saw the kind of food they were given to blood donors, he would. I don't know what would be worse. They don't even have donuts now. You're lucky if you get, I think, a whole packet of Cheez-Its, Lorna Danes, or there's like those cookies, Lorna Dews.
They don't even have Famous Amos or anything?
No Famous Amos. Chips Ahoy.
I like Chips Ahoy.
Yeah, but
do they have milk?
3 hours, you're on bed for 3 hours.
So, you got anything to say about the American Red Cross, John? I guess you want to pitch like, hey, take a look and see where the local blood drive is. Similar
to other Red Crosses.
She got the idea from I guess the International Red Cross was started in Geneva. I believe. I don't know. I did a quick little research about it, but not Geneva. Much. I just kind of brought it up so I could air my grandfather's grievances over the internet so they all know that happened in Anzio in Italy.
That's good.
They were charging a nickel for a donut to soldiers. I feel better.
Pay the bills.
I feel better now.
Have it off your chest. I get it. You guys gotta really. I'm still stewing over the habeas corpus thing. I feel like I didn't get my whole point across.
All right, give
plenty of time to crap talk Abraham Lincoln. Don't worry about it. I already kind of said my piece. I said some of my piece.
I kind of wanted to cut you off before you said anything I was going to have to edit out.
They're building a museum apparently of the guy. They have the Lincoln Memorial, and now apparently they're building a museum of the Lincoln Memorial. So they already gave the man a museum, and now we're spending more tax dollars to build a museum for him. Go figure. Can't get enough of this. People can't get enough of this guy.
I mean, a lot of people think he was like one of the greatest presidents of all time.
I've seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I know.
Wait, what happened in that? I don't know if I ever saw either of them all the way through.
He's in it.
I know he's in it.
Bill and Ted have. Do you know the premise of the story?
Which one?
I can tell real quick. The first one.
They go back. Let me see if they have a school project and it's due like the next day, and so George Carlin shows up and gives them a time machine and a phone booth.
Yeah, and they got to go and get like famous people through history.
Yeah.
Do you remember who any of them were?
They got Genghis Khan, right?
Yeah. Joan of Arc.
They got Joan of Arc. I didn't know that. Was she hot?
Abraham Lincoln. Sigmund Freud.
Interesting.
And maybe one more, but I don't recall.
And what was your point of bringing up Abe Lincoln with that movie?
He made like a 4.7 minutes ago joke. Didn't land with me, but he was in it. Yeah, they love him. I mean, obviously, if they're going to put him in a Bill and Ted movie, they got
that's the criteria. That's the criteria.
Exactly. He didn't free the slaves either, but oops, can't say that.
That was his buddy Johnson, huh?
No, it was the 13th Amendment, which officially ended slavery.
Who's on the cover? Who's on the $20 bill? Is that Andrew Jackson?
Dude, Andrew Jackson. That's great. That's a good podcast story. Probably not good for today, but that's a good. We should talk about the banking crisis of the 1836. That was a sizzler.
Is that why he is on the $20 bill?
I think they did it to spite him. Yeah, I think the Federal Reserve. I mean, the guy had been dead for 70 years, and he wasn't going to be able to say anything about it. But the dude like fought to not have the bank, the national bank. And then what do we get? The Federal Reserve. And they put him on like probably the most widely circulated bill.
Yeah.
Now, back then, yeah.
Back then it was probably like,
it's all.
Yeah, you think about it. They were probably like, we'll put him on the $20 bill. No one's going to have a bunch of these ever. Back when you made $20 a month. They might have done it out of spite. I mean, I understand why Washington, Lincoln, actually Grover Cleveland was on like the $20, $50 note. Who's on the $50 bill?
The $1,000 note, which Grant, Ulysses S. Grant.
Really? Man, I haven't seen a $50 bill in a long time. Or no, I think the last time I saw a $50 bill, I was getting gas. And this guy was like, hey, man, my card's not working. Can you swipe your card and I'll give you $50? And I was like, okay. And I swiped my card. But like, think about this. This is how much faith I put in this guy. I swiped my card. He gave me $50. I was done. I just drove away. And I was like, he could have filled up his tank and done whatever. And I just, let him do whatever. And he gave me a $50 bill. It felt pretty fake, but I've spent it at Wawa. I figure they take enough of my money. I don't care if it's fake or not. I did think of that. I was like, he did only spend $50, so good for that guy. And I remember thinking, wow, this is probably fake money. And then I was like, well, whatever. I gave that guy a tank of gas. I didn't care. I'm not like the Red Cross. I actually like.
I was gonna say you did your duty, and didn't charge him.
Yeah,
you helped him. Good Samaritan.
Yeah, hey man, all you got to do is ask. He was having a rough day. He was working. I could tell he was a construction worker. He was a laborer, and and the worst thing you want to have to happen is dealing with that nonsense at the gas pump. All right, is that all? Nothing else for this week in history, John?
Nope, that's all I got.
Any more fun facts about the George Mason house that you left out?
Not that I can think of. No.
What were the bathrooms? What did the bathrooms look like?
Didn't have indoor plumbing at that time.
Oh.
Bed chambers were.
Did they have an outhouse?
If they did, I didn't see it.
What about
the gardens were really nice. The gardens are beautiful and overlooked the Potomac. Overlooked the maybe the Occoquan River. I don't know if it was the Occoquan or the Potomac.
What if you had to go to the bathroom during your tour? What did they have for you?
They didn't have a chamber pot on the ready. I would have just, I don't know.
They had to have had a bathroom there.
Not in the house.
Really?
The tour was only an hour.
God, I wish I went with you. That probably would have been my first question. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, where's the can?
The visitor center. They were in the visitor center. And
there's a visitor center too.
We were told to use the restroom before we did that.
Oh, really? Oh, so there was a visitor center separate from the house.
Yeah.
Well, so that's it for that. You want to try to figure out a way to deal with these this thing I got in the mail. So John kind of alluded to this in the beginning of the episode. We did have a I did order, so we were trying to think of a fun game or something that we can do to kind of make this podcast a little bit more, like, give us a little bit more direction or, more structure. As John says, that's the only feedback that he gets from his side of things. And so I ordered the History Channel trivia game, which comes with a bunch of cards. I don't know how many cards are in each category, but there's 5 categories. I paid extra to get a 6th category that is 80s and 90s, the 80s and 90s expansion pack. And so I got this. It's just kind of a basic trivia game. I think we can kind of just go through and just go through, pick a card, and then there's each card has 6 questions on it, so we could just pick a random card and go there.
Yeah, and again, this will be kind of like in the weekend. You could do it with your, you're going to learn something this week. If you go to a trivia night, a pub trivia next week or whenever, maybe you'll get lucky.
So anyway, I got these on Thursday or Tuesday, and I sent John a sample to get his input on see what he thought of the questions. And I'll just read one of them. I found John's answer to be very interesting for one of the questions. The category was geography and landmarks. And the question was, answer within 5 million miles. How many miles away is the sun from Earth? And John's answer, which kind of blew my mind. I'll be honest, I didn't know the answer. But his answer was 2.3 million miles. Now, one would think if the question was within 5 million miles, to answer within 5 million miles, the answer would probably be more than 5 million, or, as I said, an answer of 0 miles would have also been considered correct if he was correct with his answer. What was really going through your mind?
It's all a state of mind. Maybe I am the sun is me, and it really is only as far as my perception goes. I don't know. I misread it. To be totally frank, I thought it said it's less than 5 million miles. You got to guess. I didn't read the question correctly. Did I get the other ones right?
I also thought
6 questions on one card.
I also thought 2.3 million miles was pretty light for the distance from Earth to Sun. That's a pretty light. That's not very far. I mean, how many miles? How many miles?
Not my brightest moment.
What's the circumference? How many miles is the circumference of Earth?
I don't have our research assistant ChatGPT booted up.
All right, it's like 25,000 miles. About 25,000 miles. So you thought that it was like, I guess I should go diameter. All right, it's about 8,000 miles from Earth. So you thought that it was about 40 Earths away, if I do my math right. That seems light,
dude. In those terms. I wasn't thinking in those terms. I misread a question and I gave a number less than 5 million. I didn't read it correctly.
I got to give a shout out to one of our fans, your biggest fan, John, of the podcast. I was talking to him about this last night, and he got the answer out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere. He remembered the answer to like the million. He was within it. The answer is 93.9 million, and he said, "Isn't it like 94 million miles?" He got it right, which I couldn't believe.
That's amazing. We should have him on.
He also has the worst memory of anyone that I've ever met. Should I call him right now?
What up?
Yo, what's up? And we got Andrew S. from Franklin, Tennessee, out on air right now. How you doing, Andrew? Hey, is it cool?
I'm doing wonderful.
Hey, is it cool if we use your voice for the internet?
What?
Just want to get permission. Just want to get permission for you to be on the podcast. I got to ask you that before we move forward.
Legally, our lawyers told us.
We got the Nailing History podcast coming at you
for this episode or for a future episode.
You are on an episode right now.
Sure. What do you want to talk about?
Well, we were just talking about the distance from the sun, from the Earth that the sun is, and how you knew the answer correctly last night.
Yes, I did. I did know the answer.
And
it's one of those weird, quirky trivia type questions that that just stick in your head from middle school science class, where you just remember these stupid, meaningless facts, that being one of them. The sun is 93 million miles away from the Earth.
What did you think about John's answer of 2.3 million? Pretty interesting answer, huh?
That is something, yeah. especially with the give or take of 5 miles. That is not a great look, John. But I get it.
Andrew, when you listen to this full episode, you'll hear that I misread the card. It was an honest mistake. I didn't know it. I'm sorry.
He thought that they were telling you that the answer was within 5 million miles. So to just pick a number within 5 million miles.
I get where that. Okay.
I thought it said 5 million miles was the furthest it could be. Guess less than that. There was 6 other questions on the card. You're not telling me
5 other questions on the card.
Did you get any of the other questions correct on that card?
Let's see. He answered.
I don't.
Okay.
Matt put the card away.
I shuffled the card away and I can't find it.
And how many cards are there?
I'll tell you. I got it. I'll pull it up.
There's a bunch.
I can tell you at least.
There's a bunch of cards on the deck.
Okay.
Now, Andrew, I know you were a big fan of our. Andrew, if I have this correct, you were a big fan of our bimetallism discussion, and I just want to thank you for that shout out, for that poll post. I sent Matt an actual article from the Wall Street Journal this past weekend. Apparently, there's a 21st century gold rush going on. And I think for all of our listeners, yourself included, I think you would just know the value of that discussion and how important metal, not just as a holdable fixed asset, but also as a form of currency. So I just want to thank you for all your support with that one. But just getting back to the trivia questions here. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, will you let him answer? No, Jesus.
I was going to say, no. I appreciate the call out because I think it is one of those topics that people don't think about, and we just I kind of ran about it, just even co-work. I've worked with people that are in their 20s, and it's do you guys understand money? And nobody gets it. And so I think it's a thing that just people don't think about enough, and people don't understand enough. And then you look at to bring you up into the modern 70s, where it's oh yeah, we got off the gold standard, and now we've got this ridiculous surge in debt, and it's are those two things correlated, and why? And it's just an interesting.
Yeah, but I do think the government does a good job of separating people's understanding of what happened, right? I think also with the Inflation Reduction Act, they'll call it. They won't admit the problem. They'll print $1 million worth of currency, and then they name a bill called the Inflation Reduction Act, and they try to dissociate two things from one another. Clever, very clever of those government tricksters.
Yeah. As somebody who works in branding, it's good. It's good marketing.
Well,
yeah, of course, sir.
Right.
Well, Andrew, I have to apologize.
I have the other questions.
Yeah, I want to know how many you got.
Andrew, I do have to ask. So, are you saying that you used what you learned on this podcast to impress your coworkers about your newfound knowledge of the bimetallism debates to make yourself seem smart and important at work?
Oh yeah, yes, of course I did that. And then I told everybody that they should listen to this wonderful podcast to learn even more.
Well, thanks you. Somebody is because John just took a tour of George Mason's house this morning, and he was walking around with the whole tour guide. There was this guy who was super into history, and I said, "Hey, did you mention that you do a history podcast?" And he said no, he didn't find the time to bring it up. He didn't see where the time really permitted for him to bring it up.
Or self-promoter. Our work will do the talking for us. He'll find us. If our product's good, he'll find us. David was his name.
I don't know if that's how that works, John, but like I got
Thank you.
This
is what I'm dealing with.
Bimetallism. I got one out of two ain't bad, as old Meatloaf would say. Well, 2 out of 3, but I'll work on the second one.
Yeah, but it's somebody who works in marketing. Right. You got to get the name out there. Like,
can't win it all.
Yeah, people aren't going to stumble. People aren't going to stumble upon you. You got to do the work. But I do love the
Thank you.
I was asking a lot of questions. He was asking a lot of questions. We made eye contact, and I froze up. Maybe I just froze. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I think
got a
maybe
question
he
for
doesn't.
You.
He's scared to succeed. Andrew S. He's scared to succeed.
Oh, it's a pretty big shot there. Pretty hard.
You might as well suspend habeas corpus with that kind of talk. I mean, geez, he's just charging me with a crime I didn't commit. Why are you throwing that at me? All right, Miss Andrew, I've got a question for you. In the U.S., who succeeds the president if the vice president is unable to do so?
That is the Speaker of the House? No?
That is correct.
Hey, John, you're freezing there. Hey, Andrew, don't you think that... Hey, Andrew S., are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you hear John dropping in and out this whole time?
Yeah, and I can't tell if that's him or me.
It's him. This is what I've been dealing with because his fiance is watching us. She's streaming something on the television, and this is his internet connection.
Gotta upgrade that.
Yeah, I told him to call Comcast and have him come out there, but anyway, I don't know if we still have John. I'm not hearing him right now, so I guess we'll call it a call. Appreciate your input, and we'll call you again. We'll call you again soon.
I can say anytime. Happy to spread some knowledge.
You got anything else to say?
Nope. Just say you guys are doing a great job, and keep up the good work.
All right, thanks, Andrew S. One of our fans, everybody from the Juntao Guild.
Fantastic.
All right, boys.
All right, be peace.
Keep sailing.
All right. So I'm going to let's just see how this goes. You got 6 categories: sports and recreation, arts and culture, science and technology, people and events, geography and landmarks, or 80s and 90s. Pick one.
Geography and landmarks.
Okay. I'm going to pick a card at random. All right. In which country is Africa's Mount Kilimanjaro?
Tanzania?
That's correct. What is the capital of Bahrain?
Doha is Qatar. I don't know.
Manama? The Republic of Malta is located in which sea?
Mediterranean.
Which U.S. state is the only one to border just one other state? Yep. Which country's capital city is Tripoli?
Libya.
What is Europe's longest river?
Danube?
Is it Danube?
Danube. Was it right?
No. The Volga River. The Volga River.
Volga River.
All right. Well, we'll have to figure out something. So I think maybe what we'll do, I don't know if you could think of this. Well, we can talk about it. We can talk about it off air, but I was thinking there's 6 categories, and if there's 6 questions in each category. So I was thinking if you answer more than if you answer more than half of them correct, you keep that card, and then you're done with that category. And the first one to get one card from each category wins.
Okay. And do that each week, or do that like a running? We'll each one card read to us per week.
We'll each do one card per week.
Okay, that works.
And then maybe there'll be something that's not, the geography one's not super interesting to really do any follow-ups for, but some of these might bring up some pretty good follow-up conversations to for the following week to talk about.
I like that. I think our fans will find that quite intriguing. I think that's a great place to wrap it up for the week, huh? What would you say?
Yeah, it's good.
All right, guys.
Got anything to leave the fans with, John?
No, just stay curious in history. Keep on asking those questions.
There we go. I think that's it. I don't have anything else. So another solid week. You guys enjoy your weekend, and we'll be back next week with another enticing episode.
We'll see you then.
And we say bye-bye.